All right. So we looked at KMP string matching, and it can as well be used for the keyword matching, the exact string match. Um, However, for multiple keywords, um, directly it is not useful. It needs to be generalized. So Aho and Korasik generalized the KMP algorithm to recognize a set of keywords rather than a single keyword. So this particular KMP generalization is also used was also used in the initial setup for initial implementation of fgrep command in Unix. So let's say that we have certain keywords like he, she, his, and hers. These are the 4 keywords that we would like to recognize. It can be nicely represented using an automaton where he, that is he, it leads to a final state. Right? So 2 is a final state, 2, 7, 9, and 5 are final states. Hers is an overlap with he, and therefore that reuses the edges in this automaton, which have he also. And then his has h as the common, and then it goes to state number 7, and then she is separate, which is state number 5. So this gives some sort of dictionary or a trie-like structure to the state diagram, and that gets used for the implementation of that is the one that was proposed by Aho and Korasik. The failure function corresponding to that looks like this, where again in this case I starts from 1. So when you are in, so these are states from, I mean 0 is the starting state. So we have these different states 1 to 9. Whenever you are failing in a particular state, what is the longest match that you have already seen, right? So that should define your next state from where you should begin, right? For example, if you fail in state number 1, that means that there is some character which is other than h, right? So therefore there is no match corresponding to that, and therefore we don't say that anything is matching. Similarly with state number 3, it's a single letter which we have seen where it fails. Let's come to state number 2. If you come to state number 2, then that means that you have seen h, but that means that you will that you are seeing some character other than e or I in this case, and therefore you will not have anything common. I mean, of course h will be common, but then you won't be able to utilize it because you are seeing some other character, because our definition of this state transition diagram is only these 4 keywords, right? So let's come to 4, and that will probably make it clear. So when you have seen when you are at state number 4 and you have seen sh, right? At that time the suffix of this sh, which is the largest prefix, which is a valid keyword, which is of any valid keyword. In this case, it's not only of that particular pattern, but there could be any possible pattern which is a valid proper prefix. That should be understood. That should be recognized. And in this case, it turns out that there is nothing else which starts with sh, but there is h, which can be a starting symbol for he, his, as well as hers. And therefore, if you fail in state number 4, since you have recognized h, you should go to state number 1, because you have seen h as one of the letters while matching sh, and therefore you should match h already, and then check if after this there is another match corresponding to hers or his or he. Similarly, when you are at 5, you have already seen SHE, and although SHE kind of did not work out, so in this case it so happened that you are seeing some character which is other than what is anticipated. So you have seen SHE, but doesn't mean that it is the full keyword. I mean, of course, you have matched the full keyword, but there might be another character which might be coming, which will say that SHE, let's say X or something like that, which you don't know currently. In that case, you need to see if that HEX or HER is a valid keyword or not. And therefore, at SHE, when it fails, you have still matched HE, and therefore you should go from state number 5 to state number 2. So that is what is mentioned at the failure function here. Similarly, from state number 6, when I have seen I is not a proper prefix of anything, so I will not worry about that. So I go back to state number 0, which is the starting state. When I'm in state number 7, I have seen HIS, and the proper prefix, the longest proper prefix IS does not match any keyword, but S does match a keyword SHE, and therefore I will go back from 7 to state number 3. So that is what is mentioned here. From 8 we don't go anywhere. Here also from state number 9 I have seen character S, and therefore I can go to state number 3. Any questions on this part? Okay, so I hope that this concept is clear. So just to recap, when in state I, the failure function f of I, it notes the state corresponding to the longest proper suffix, that is also a prefix of some keyword, alternately longest suffix which is also a proper prefix of some keyword. It need not be the same keyword, it could be some other keyword, right? So that becomes a generalization because any of the keywords can be matched. Yeah, so this is just an explanation of that. Let's move ahead from here, and kind of the two last topics of lexical analysis are that we want to have conversion from given a regular expression, we want to construct the finite automaton corresponding to it, and we want deterministic finite automaton to be recognized. So one of the ways in which that can be done is via an NFA, and other is directly a DFA. And some of the ideas that we use in the second approach would also be useful when we do parsing. There is some overlap with respect to that those ideas. So but let's first look at the first approach. Right? So yeah, so can people draw an NFA for star CPP? Let's say I want to recognize all the file names using the star CPP command. So I just want to find all the C++ files in my directory. What will be the NFA corresponding to that, or how many states will it have? Five, 4. Okay. Counting dead state, I see. Okay, sure. Yeah, so we need not have that dead state because this is NFA. But anyway, that's fine. I think you guys understand this better. So the NFA will look like this, where we have the CPP as 3 transitions, which go from states 1 to 3. And then on, let's say, any other, not any other, all the alphabet, it continues to remain in state 0, right? So that becomes our NFA. And then we construct a DFA using the DFA construction. And it turns out that that DFA also can be recognized using 4 states. and DFA looks something like this. Right? The question is that although we could find it out for this particular example, so how does a machine draw? This needs to be recognized automatically. How does a machine draw an NFA for an arbitrary regular expression? Right? So any suggestions? How does it do that? So now you want to mechanize the procedure of converting from regular expression to an NFA. Once we have an NFA, then we know the algorithm to convert from NFA to DFA. But how does one construct an NFA? Recursively, okay. Some more concrete things there. Wait, Nishchit is speaking, so
structural induction, kind of like that.
sorry, Nishchit, can you repeat that?
Something like structural induction, like recursion itself.
Yeah, how does that work?
So there's like five I think basic structures, like OR and concatenation and star and plus and all the basic things, and then so you go on identifying the basic structures recursively.
Right. All right. So that seems fine. Even some of the other answers mentioned here by Rudra and Ravi, these are on proper lines. Right. So we let's do that then. So for the sake of convenience, we'll convert that star CPP, the example, to star ABB, because we are used to using A and B as from the LMC domain. Right. So the regular expression corresponding to that star CPP, I can recognize that as A plus B star followed by ABB. So let's try to recognize that. And what we do is, as you guys have mentioned, we keep recursively starting from the base terminals, and from there applying different operators which we have. For example, the OR operator is going to be applied first. So we have this A and then as a regular expression, and then B as another regular expression. And then we apply A plus B, and that can be applied to convert an NFA to accept A or B by having epsilon transitions like this. And then recognizing this first state as the start state and the last state as the end state, and that recognizes A plus B, right? So this can be mechanized. This part at least can be mechanized. If I want to make a star out of it, then I have a back transition, right? And in addition, I need something else. What is that? We can create a hash map from token to the node star. We have to do reverse the process of converting NFA to regular expression. Why is that? I didn't understand. So in case of lexical analysis, we have this regular expressions given, right? And the lexical analyzer generator is going to take this regular expression and create a lexical analyzer. This lexical analyzer code is going to essentially operate on a finite automaton. Therefore, we need conversion from regular expression to the finite automaton. And I mean, there is no non-determinism here, therefore we need a deterministic finite automaton. And the way to do it is that take the regular expression, convert it to NFA, convert it to DFA. NFA to DFA conversion, we know that is the exponential blow up can happen in the states, etc. We combine those states where there are epsilon transitions and so on. Essentially, those are the ideas that we'll be using even in the second approach, but yeah, in a slightly different way. Right. So we don't need to convert from NFA to regular expression in this case. Yeah. Start state should also be made another final state. Correct. So start state also should be, so in A plus B, start state was not the final state. However, in A plus B star, empty string belongs to this language, and therefore we have to make the start state also as the final state. Okay, so that part is fine. Then I want to add ABB, so that can be added by applying again So that's what I did here. This is A plus B star, and now I'll add or yeah, epsilon transition from start state to end state, or make the start state as the end state. And then ABB I'm going to add, and that gives me my NFA corresponding to this particular regular expression, right? So this we can see, at least with my hand environment, that it can be mechanized, it can be automated. Once we have this, then identifying, converting it into a DFA seems to be fine. So I'm going to just number this so it becomes easy for me to recognize. And then the usual combination of NFA states. So whatever is the epsilon closure of that particular state. So I start from 0. Epsilon closure of 0 is 0, 1, 2, 4, 7. Yeah, so those are essentially the states here, right? So that I'm going to call a new state in the DFA, and on different symbols like small a and small b, where all can I go? So from any of these states on small a, I can go to the I can go to some states, and then epsilon closure of that is going to give me some new state. So I'm able to go to, for example, on A, I can go from 2 to 3, and epsilon closure of 3 also contains 6, as well as 1, and so on, as well as 7. So therefore, all of these states are going to get included when I go from any of these states in the first row to any of these on symbol A. Right? So all of these constitute a new state, NFA state, and therefore I'm going to name it as a new name, and so on. And when you try, for example, going from B on symbol A, you don't find any new transition, because on 8 we have B as the only transition, and therefore you will essentially get the same set of states, and therefore on A I go to B, whereas on B I create a new state adding from 8. Why did I not add 9 here? Yeah, there is 9. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, so I go to a new state called D. Right. And yeah, this is on A. On B, I'm going to state C. So all of this you can do. So I'll not get into that again. But the whole purpose is that out of all these 10 or 11 states that I had in the NFA, I am able to get the transition diagram done in this case 5 states. So in general, I would have probably required 1,000 states or so. Right? So this gives me a state transition diagram in the finite world, in the deterministic world, and that gives me the deterministic finite automaton, which looks like this based on the transitions, the states A, B, C, D, E, and the transitions involved. Right. So if you compare with what we had thought about when we were looking at star CPP, it was looking like this. So we had the NFA for star ABB or star CPP. Then we said that the DFA corresponding to that looks like this, but the DFA that we obtained is looking like this, which looks different corresponding to that. And so did we commit some mistake? Any suggestions? Right. So so what is the basic principle that we have just merged A and C? So with our construction, we got this DFA third diagram, and whereas the DFA that we thought about was the second diagram. And what does that indicate? So Vishwa is suggesting that we have just merged A and C. What does that indicate? Ours is better. Yeah. So what it conveys is that our procedure does not always give a minimal DFA. So it can be optimized further. So that should be remembered. Okay, so this procedure gives you a DFA, but it need not always be a minimal DFA. And the reason why minimal DFA is important in our context is because your number of regular expressions could be very arbitrarily large, and the state transition diagram might actually blow up. And therefore, from memory perspective and efficiency perspective, it's important that the state transition diagram remains small. Of course, it's not going to really create a state transition diagram, I mean, as a graph at runtime in the lexical analyzer. It's going to be a table-based mechanism. We know how, I mean, essentially the previous slide where I showed that on this state, on this symbol, you go to this particular state. That is how, as a table-driven mechanism, it gets implemented in the lex.yy.c file. Okay, so as you guys indicated, A and C are similar. The transitions from both of them, A and C, go to B, and transitions on B, both of them go to C, and therefore I can merge these two because they are equivalent states, and therefore I get the same state. So this is the overall flow of this regular expression to NFA to DFA. Any questions on this part? Why do we only use DFA? Can we use NFA for regular matching? Yeah, so we don't know in the hardware how to implement non-determinism. Right, so that is the issue. NFA may take exponential. No, so NFA is so on a particular symbol where all you need to go, that is not decided. So you cannot go to a particular state. Right? So you'll have to try the whole epsilon closure anyway. And therefore it is not, I mean, there is no one particular transition which you can take when you see a symbol. Right? So that is the non-determinism which is inherent in it. Right? So non-determinism is more like you can simulate a polynomial time using DP. You can follow recursion and store states in hash map. Well, these are again implementation things, but essentially what you will end up doing is simulating the deterministic finite automata corresponding to it. So why not build the DFA and utilize it? But if we, essentially you are going to say that I'm going to go anywhere into the epsilon closure of this particular state, which is essentially what we are representing as a different state symbol in the DFA. All right, any other concerns? By the way, more philosophically, non-determinism currently cannot be simulated. Right? So we lack badly in non-deterministic part. All CFGs are in class P. Yeah, that is correct. So, I mean, the hardware is capable of doing that. It can go from, I mean, you have to tell it clearly which state you want to go to and so on. Right? So these non-deterministic Turing machines, non-deterministic finite automaton, non-deterministic PDAs, all of these are theoretical concepts. Right? So you can, I mean, you can simulate them by creating some randomization, but true randomization also doesn't exist. Right? These are all pseudo-random things when we are talking about computers. So anyway, that's a little philosophical issue, and that is where that P and P comes into picture. All right, so we'll move ahead. Let's come to the second part, which is going to use all of these concepts. So please pay attention. There is a little bit of complicated algorithm which is developed, but yeah, hopefully hopefully it will give us the DFA directly. So you might, by the way, feel that after going through all of this, that yeah, this particular algorithm, after having seen a very clean regular expression to NFA to DFA 3-step process or 2-step process, this particular procedure is, instead of eating like this, I'm eating like this. But please bear with me. Hopefully the DFA that we'll get will be correct. Okay, so what we are going to do is to create some sort of a syntax tree for regular expressions. Right? And the regular expression I'm going to end with some marker. I'm just showing this as a sharp sign here, but that is just going to make sure that we end the regular expression. Right? Then we compute four different kinds of information, whether a state is nullable, what is the first position, what is the last position in the syntax tree, and what is the follow position for each particular state in this syntax tree. I'll show you the example, but I'm just mentioning the overall flow now. And then using a transition function based on these, whatever I have computed, I'm going to construct the DFA. Once I have constructed the DFA, then there are some auxiliary things like you can mark the first position of the root in the syntax tree as the start state, and mark the states that contain the position of the sharp sign as the accepting state, because that indicates the end of the string, and so on. Right, so let's go ahead with that. So let's again come back to our regular expression, a plus b star a b b, and I'm going to end it with a sharp sign. I'm going to construct a syntax tree corresponding to it. Okay, so how many nodes are there in the syntax tree? I mean, I have not talked about syntax tree really, but in case somebody can figure out how many states are going to be there in the syntax tree. Okay, so syntax tree is a tree-like representation of some expression. Right? Even in case, I don't know if we did in PDS expression trees. Okay, 11. Okay, so where we said that a plus b can be represented as a, b as two nodes, and then plus as another node, and that plus is the operator which is connecting these two children. So it can be represented as a three-node tree. A plus b star c can be represented as b star c, and then a plus that star. So it becomes a five-node structure, five-node tree. So similarly here, if I have to apply similar concepts, what would be the number of nodes in such a syntax tree? Number of characters plus operators. Yeah. So the operators are, what are the operators here? Okay, or star, right? So there is a dot operator also, right? So that also should be remembered. So there is a dot b dot b dot sharp, right? So that is also there in the end. Okay, so I'm going to represent it like this. So I have this a b or, right? So that is the first part that applied to star. So star becomes a unary operator. And then there is concatenation with a, b, b sharp. Right? So that becomes my syntax tree. So leaves correspond to our operands, and the interior nodes correspond to various operators. It could be unary, binary, it could be multiple, but in regular expressions we will not have those. And the operands essentially are constituting the strings which belong to this language. And there is something interesting about this, that these are all regular expression strings, right? And if I take all these regular expression strings and I can represent them as syntax trees, it means something, right? Can somebody at a higher level, what does it mean? Okay, so I should mention that syntax trees are not regular, right? I mean, the reason why we get into syntax trees is because somewhere there is a limitation that you cannot represent those in a more simplified way. So does that give any hint? Every subtree is also a regular expression, follow in order and we get regex. Okay. Yeah, both of these are correct. Yeah, but I was thinking about something else. But anyway, I'll just, grammars are a superset of regex. Right. Right. CFG for the regex. Yes. So the strings which constitute the regular expressions, if you put those strings together, then those cannot be represented as regular expression. Those need to be represented as a context-free grammar. Right? So that is an interesting observation. All right, so let's come back to our regular expression to DFA. We have this tree, and now we said that there are four functions which we are, four types of information that we are going to construct for this syntax tree. First one was, first one was nullable, right? So for each node, I am going to say that that node is, the nullable of that node is true if that node might represent a string epsilon. Right? This seems logical that this is nullable, right? So this belongs to, very similar to epsilon transition. So when you want to go to epsilon closure, you need to know which states I need to pass through, right, in the NFA. Similarly here, we'll mark something as nullable if it can represent an epsilon string. First pause of a particular node is the set of positions. So each node in this is going to represent some string, right? Or a set of strings. For example, a plus b star. So if I look at star as the node, it can represent epsilon, it can represent a, it can represent b, it can represent ab, ba, all possible strings in ab, right? So the first, so each node in this syntax tree is going to represent a set of strings, and the set of positions that correspond to the first symbol in these strings, right? So that is defined by the first pause of n, right? We'll come to that example, but this is just to define all these four terms. Similarly, follow pause is the set of next positions corresponding to from this particular state. Sorry, last pause is going to be the, so first pause is the set of states which are corresponding to the first symbol in any of the strings that are represented by this n. Last pause is the set of positions, last positions which correspond to the last symbol, set of positions which correspond to the last symbol in all the strings which are represented by this n. And follow pause is the set of next positions from n. So these are just the nomenclatures, but we'll define those in the context of the example. Right? So if we have our NFA, the epsilon is going to give us the nullable. The first pause is going to give you all the, so for example, in state 3, I mean, this is an NFA, right? So we are not going to go to NFA, but I'm just showing you that this has similarities with respect to that first pause, the last position, so that I can talk about a transition from the last position based on a particular symbol, based on the follow pause. What are the next possible positions that I can go to? So let's do that. So in case of nullable, let's define nullable for each state. So if I go back to my syntax tree, which was like this, is a nullable, the leftmost, bottommost node in this syntax tree, is that node representing a nullable string? That is the question. Okay, you guys are saying no. It represents a, and it represents only the string corresponding to a, and therefore it does not represent epsilon, and therefore nullable of a is going to be false, nullable of b is going to be false. In fact, nullable of all the child nodes, all the leaf nodes is going to be false. How about nullable of or? Here, is that nullable? Okay, you guys are saying no. The reason being that it is an OR of two non-nullable strings, and therefore the combination can never be nullable. In contrast, star can generate an epsilon always, and therefore star is always nullable. How about this dot? Is this nullable? Okay, no, that is correct because it has a concatenation with A, therefore it can, that dot will never generate an empty string, and similarly none of these will generate this, right? So all of these are false, this is false, this is true, and all of these are false. So there is only one nullable node or nullable state in this syntax tree, right? Any questions on nullable? This part is okay? All right. So let's go to the, yeah, so I'm just going to put it in a tabular form where we say that leaf if, yeah, by the way, I should mention that there could be a leaf corresponding to epsilon. In our example, there wasn't any leaf, but if there is a leaf labeled epsilon, then only it is true. Otherwise, any other leaf position is going to be false. It's not going to be nullable. For an OR, it is if nullable of, if C1 is nullable, that is, there is an OR node n which has C1, which represents C1 or C2. So if any of these is nullable, then n becomes nullable. Right? So that is what we have represented here. And similarly for a concatenation, if both of these are nullable, C1 and C2, then only concatenation node will become nullable. And star node is always nullable. Right? So that is what we have represented here. Okay, so can we write it down for first pause? Where first pause, okay, let me define that first. So I want you to construct this table for a first pause function. What is first pause? First pause of n is the set of position that correspond to the first symbol in all the strings that it represents. So if there is a leaf labeled epsilon, right, what will be the first pause of that? So nullable was returning a truth value, whereas the rest of it, first pause, follow pause, and last pause, are going to return a set of states. Right? So let's define it into the state form, into the set form. Can we get null set from some subtree? Yes, you can get null set from a subtree. That is possible. For example, if there is star star, then you can get a null set from a subtree. Right? Alternatively, if it is epsilon plus epsilon, like that, then it is possible. Positions, I mean, positions are the states in the syntax tree. Concatenation is a problem. Why is that? You mean for first pause, concatenation will need nullable input. That is correct. That is correct. So you'll have to check if something is nullable and then, okay, so you guys are on the right line. Good. Okay, so leaf labeled epsilon will say that first pause of that, first pause of n is going to be empty because there is no symbol corresponding to it. So we'll say that it is empty set. For the leaf with position I, right, which means that A, B, etc. in our all the leaf nodes which are there in our example. For that, the first position of each such node is going to be that particular node itself, right? And therefore, we'll put for node with position I will say that I is in the set, in the first pause. Okay. Then for C1 or C2, so if that node represents C1 or C2, an OR node, what can we say about the first pause of n? Union of first pause of child node. Okay. So there is first pause of C1, there is first pause of C2, and the union of this is going to represent the OR node. What happens for the concatenation? C1 dot C2. So what will be the first pause of n, which represents that dot? So as Sarthak had pointed out, it is not going to be straightforward. And as Arnav has replied, we'll have to, yeah, we'll have to use the nullable of, if, so if it is nullable of C1, then it is going to be something. Right? One might say it will be first cause of C2, but then what if C2 is also empty? I mean nullable. Yeah, it doesn't matter. If it was nullable, then it will remain empty string or something like empty set or something like that. So it can be used. So if nullable of C1, then first cause of C2, correct. Else first cause of C1. That seems fine. Okay. And for the concatenation node, sorry, for the star node, so star node essentially is saying that if there is a string C that gets repeated, right? So C is a string which gets repeated. So C followed by C followed by C, and this can happen 0 or many number of times, right? So what will be the first position in that string? Yeah, epsilon or first pos of C or C1. So since epsilon represents empty set, instead of epsilon we'll say empty set that ORed with the first pos of C1, which is essentially first pos of C1 or first pos of C. So that is what we'll say. So you guys are correct. So that is what I am going to mention. For leaf labeled epsilon, it is empty. For leaf with position I, that position I. For OR node, it's a union. For cat node, it is going to be if nullable C1, then okay, I think we discussed something else. If null, oh, I see. Okay. Okay, I should clarify that part. So if it is not nullable, then first cause of C1. Okay, so in our discussion we said first cause of C2, but first cause of C1 also needs to be added, because although it might be nullable, it might still have other strings, right? So epsilon might belong to that, but there might be other strings which might belong to it, and therefore first cause of C1 union first cause of C2 must get added, right? So that's an important point. I forgot that. Okay, and for star node, it becomes first cause of C, right? So any questions on this part? This looks fine. Okay, if this looks fine, then I'll ask you to do it for last pause. Okay, so last pause of epsilon is going to be the empty string, empty set. For position I, for a single node, it is going to be last pause of that itself, because I mean first pause, last pause is going to be the same for the single node, so that is okay. What happens for OR, cat and star, that you have to say? Well, for star also it is going to be last pause of C, because essentially you are just concatenating that string 0 or more number of times. So last pause of C is going to be also last pause of the star node. So that is also okay. What happens for OR and concatenation? So like what happened in case of first pause, where OR node was easy, the cat node was a little complicated. Similarly, opposite will happen for last pause, where cat node will be easy. So whatever will that be opposite? No, no, it won't be opposite. It will be similar to first pause. So for OR node, the initializations, okay. For OR union, okay, yeah. So union for OR, yeah, that is correct. So it will continue to have union corresponding to the OR node. So last pause of C1 union last pause of C2, right? So whatever is the last position which corresponds to the last, whatever be the position which corresponds to the last symbol, last alphabet in C1, union whatever is the last alphabet in C2. the position corresponding to that union of those union of those sets is going to give you the OR node. So it is going to be similar to first pass. Whereas for the cat node, it will be a little difficult. So if nullable of C2, then last pos of C1 union last pos of C2, correct, else last pos of C2. If nullable C2, then union, else, yes. So that seems correct. Right? Okay, so let's see that. All others are fine. If nullable C2, then last union, otherwise last pos of C2, right? This should be C2, not C1. Okay. Now let's do it for follow pos. So yeah, before that, I'm just going to mention that. So let's come back to our tree, and I'm going to put this first pos set and the last pos set for every node. Right. So for our example, I'm just going to name these nodes as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So first pos of A is going to be 1. First pos of A is also, last pos of A is also going to be 1. Similarly for B, as well as for all the leaf nodes corresponding to it. What will be the first pos and last pos of the OR node? We'll say first pos will be 1 or 2, right, which is a union of the sets 1, 2. Similarly, last pos will also be union of these two. So that is what I'll get as 1, 2 and 1, 2 as first pos set and last pos set. What does this mean? This means that any string which is recognized by A or B must have its first character being recognized as A or B, that is in position 1 or position 2. Similarly, the last character in A or B must have either 1 or 2 as the position, which means that it has to end in A or B, right? So this is what it is going to indicate. What will be the first pos, last pos of star? Okay, there is some question. Can you again explain why we didn't add epsilon in first pos of star? Epsilon is a symbol. It is used only in the nullable form, but nullable also just returns a Boolean value, whereas first pos, last pos and follow pos are sets. Right? So if it is nullable, then you have to say that it is an empty set. Right? So epsilon is not a set. Right? So the correspondingly the set we are going to talk about is the empty set. So therefore we don't add epsilon to the first position. That doesn't mean that the regular expression will not recognize it. If the regular expression recognizes epsilon, that will get captured. Don't worry. When we mark the final states, right? So that will take care of whichever are the nullable states. Those are going to help us in marking if, for example, the first state is representing nullable. Then we'll say that okay, epsilon or we'll mark the final states, and if the first state is will also belong to the set of final states if that epsilon belongs to the language, right? So don't worry about it. First pos of node equal to position. There exists a string corresponding to the subtree rooted at node whose first character comes from that position. Yes, that is correct. That is correct. Okay. So what will be the first pos, last pos of star? First pos of star is chalo, we have finished the time. So we said that for the Kleene closure for star, the first pos is going to be first pos of C is C star is going to be first pos of C. And the first pos of C is essentially the OR node corresponding to it. So the first pos of that is also going to be first pos of star. Similarly for the last pos, right? So that 1, 2, 1, 2 is going to get followed for star also, right? Okay, so you guys have it. Yeah, okay. And we'll just finish it for concatenation and then we'll stop. So what will be the first pos of and last pos of this node? So C1 dot C2. So we said that first pause is going to be first pause of C1 if C1 is non-nullable, right? But C1 in this case is representing a star, and we know that it is, we had marked it as false, which means that it is nullable. So marked it as true, which means that it is nullable. And therefore, we have to take union with the first pause of C2 also, which in this case is A, right? And therefore, it should be, okay, 1, 2, 3 as the first pause and 3 as the last pause, okay? So 3 is definitely going to be the last pause because it is non-nullable. So therefore 3 as last pause is correct. And the union of first pause of C1 and first pause of C2 is going to give you 1, 2, 3. So that will be the answer. Similarly, the same thing is going to happen 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 5, 1, 2, 3 and 6 is going to be the first and last pause of all these concatenation nodes. Okay. Note that although the left hand side of this dot is nullable, the left hand side of any of these dots is non-nullable, and therefore it doesn't change the answer, right? So it does not remain, it does not add 4, 5, 6 to the first pause of these positions, right? So that should be understood, because there is always a, at least A is there in the substring, in the string corresponding to the subtree rooted at this dot, for example. Alrighty. So I think we'll do follow pause tomorrow. Once we have this basic structure, then we'll do follow pause and then we'll look at the algorithm. So we'll stop here. Any quick questions? Okay. So see you then in next class, which will be next week.